Okay, you're live.
Thank you, Rosie. I'd like to welcome you all to the County of Chautauqua Industrial Development Agency. This is the Board of Directors meeting. It is via Zoom. It's October 1st, 2021, and it's about 10:04 a.m. I'd like to have a roll call. We do have quorum. Mike Metzger is here. Gary Henry. Here. Hans Auer. Here. Stephen Thorpe. Here. Jay Churchill. Here. Dennis Rack. Here. Okay, and I would also like to recognize Pierre Chagnon and Christine Starks from the Chautauqua County Legislature. So thank you for being in attendance today. I will entertain a motion for the approval of the 27th, 2021 minutes, which thanks to Rosie, you have already received. So moved. Thank you. I have a motion, and I saw Jay seconded. Second. So the motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion, comments, changes, or revisions? Hearing none, roll call, vote please. All those in favor? Aye. 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 Opposed? Abstain? Motion carried unanimously. Now I'd like to move right into new business. New business 3A, and this will be presented by Carol, please.
Okay, thanks, Mike. This first resolution is an LTEC loan fund. ZTS Development, who is Alan Steinberg, is requesting $400,000 from the LTEC fund. The $400,000 is to purchase the former Lexington building. The total purchase price is $1.1 million. Evans Bank is looking at financing $590,000. He is asking us to do LTEC funding for $400,000, and $110,000 is going to be equity. Now, the former Lexington building has been vacant for a while, with the exception of currently 54,000 square feet right now are on a month-to-month basis. The monthly base rent is $20,475. Alan is purchasing the building with the purpose of leasing out the rest of the space, which right now he's working on a 3 to 5 year lease. The lease amount appears to be approximately $420,288 annually. So his loan payments are $71,990 for this. It actually leaves a profit of about approximately $350,000. It has an appraised value of $1.9 million at this point. And this loan would be, if we approve this loan, it is definitely contingent on Evans Bank awarding their loan of $590,000, the environmental being okay, the appraisal coming back, with the value. Because the collateral is going to be a second mortgage and assignment of rents and leases behind Evans Bank. We would be in second position on the real estate. We would be a second lien position and UCC filing on furniture, pictures, equipment, all assets, accounts receivable. There would also be a personal guarantee of Alan Steinberg, and he is requesting that we waive the life insurance assignment due to the fact that it would be quite expensive for him to give more life insurance on him. Alan has loans with us. He's current on everything. The carriage house he stated was full. All his properties are doing very well. Here Carson Street, he's got some office space built there. And he has appointments with a few people looking at offices in there. So at this point, I guess I'll ask if there are any questions on this. I think everybody's pretty familiar with the Lexington building.
And the loan review committee reviewed this as well.
Yes, they did review this last week, and they did recommend it to the board to be taken forward for an Altec loan.
Has there been any environmental work done since Lexington evacuated the building, or are we just hoping that there's not going to be a problem?
Yeah, we've been very, very involved with the DEC for the past 7 years on this property. We know exactly what's going on. The remediation has been ongoing. Actually, the remediation has been mostly completed. Now it's just a matter of ground sampling the water, which continues to improve over time. We had a long conversation and conference call with the DEC and Alan Steinberg and his realtor for about an hour going over what was on the site, what the issues were. And in my 15 years in this, I never heard the DEC say, and they can't come right out and say there's not a whole lot to worry about, but they said that in so many words. Now, we all knew that. Lori Taylor was very good at reading those environmental reports and letting us know what was going on. So, but it did scare away. Those environmentals scared away the last 4 buyers. So we're very pleased that this buyer was able to understand that, get some reassurances, and move ahead. So,
Thank you.
Great to get somebody into that vacant building.
Right.
Yeah, great.
Anything else?
Mike, I just want to let you know that Kelly is joining.
Thank you. Let the record show that Kelly Farrell Du Bois is now joining. Thank you, Kelly. All right. Carol has presented this. Thank you, and thank you for all your hard work and effort on making this project come to a reality and putting this property back into manufacturing or warehousing use. Do I have any further questions of Carol? Hearing none, I would ask for a motion on new business A. Jay, if you could please move that motion.
Motion, resolution 10-01-21-01, approval as an Altec loan.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Stephen. Motion's been made by Jay and seconded by Stephen. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please. Mike Metzger votes aye. Gary Henry?
Aye.
Hans Auer?
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe?
Aye.
Jay Churchill?
Aye.
Dennis Rack?
Aye.
Kelly Farrell Du Bois?
Aye. Aye. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, guys. Sorry. Hi, Kelly. Hi, everybody.
Let the record show that there are 7 votes in the affirmative. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks, Carol, for all your hard work. And also, Rich Dixon has been involved in this property for, I think, a lot more than the years he identified. New business B, if Christine, if you could please present that.
Yes, thank you, Mike. We had a very in-depth presentation a few months ago by the developer, Kevin Cullen. So we did not invite him back today because you've already heard his story. Before I jump into the project overview, I just wanted to ask Mark if he had any comments regarding background leading up to this, or if you felt like what you presented last time was sufficient, and then I can jump in.
Yeah, just very briefly, because long meeting, but we talked about the fact that the Hideaway Bay property went into foreclosure back in around 2016, and the legislature, decided that they wanted to pull it out of the auction so that they could try to find a use that was conducive to helping out the community. And the land bank had it, and the land bank marketed it, and we talked to a lot of developers, and it wasn't the right fit. And finally, Mr. Cullen came along with his team, and really what they're proposing here really makes a lot of sense. So we're all on board with this project, and I think it's a good outcome for the community. That the legislature should be happy with this as well. So I'm all for this project moving forward.
Thank you, Mark. So just as an overview, the 42 Lake Erie LLC project, also known as Hideaway Bay Resort, is a high-end glamping and recreation resort that would feature 10 waterfront cabins, a cafe bar event space, and 4 seasons of diverse world-class active and passive recreation opportunities. It's a little over a $1.4 million project. The loan request being presented today is for $428,835 through the Altech Revolving Loan Fund. The purpose would be for real estate acquisition/development, furniture, fixtures, and/or equipment, and/or working capital, with loan terms 20 years for real estate acquisition and development, 7 years for furniture, fixtures, and/or equipment, 5 years for working capital, all at 4% interest, with payments made monthly. For any potential working capital financing, the financing would not exceed $100,000 in the working capital category. The loan would be secured by a second lien mortgage position on a commercial real estate located at 42 Lake Avenue, Silver Creek, New York, 14136. A second lien position on all business assets, including but not limited to furniture, fixtures, machinery, equipment, inventory, and accounts receivable. Key man life insurance on the lives of Kevin Cullen, Christian Eady, Jean Tundo, and Matt Tundo, each in the amount of the loan, and unlimited personal guarantees provided by, Kevin Cullen, Christian Eady, Jean Tundo, and Matt Tundo. We would also require a corporate guarantee provided by Hideaway Bay Resort LLC, and of course, as usual, we would require them to maintain fire and hazard insurance on all corporate assets. This loan was presented to the loan committee, and you have all received the minutes, I think twice now, from that meeting, where the loan committee provided a very thorough review. We discussed the project, and they recommended this structure for approval to the IDA board. Are there any questions about the project or about the financing being recommended? Millen, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I was just going to add to remind the board that we've already approved a pilot sales tax and mortgage recording tax for this project. That has not closed yet, and while they've not said so, I think that the applicants are waiting for this resolution because it's part of their overall financing package. So it does have sort of a longer history with the board.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up, Ellen. Are there any questions about the project, the financing being proposed?
Hearing no questions, Gary, if you could please bring new business resolution.
Resolution 10-1-21-02 42 Lake Erie LLC, authorizing LTEC RL.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made by Gary, seconded by Kelly. Any further discussion? This is a a great project. We've seen it, as Bill and identified, come to the board many times and to our long roll call vote, please. Mike Metzger votes aye. Gary Henry?
Aye.
Hans Sauer?
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe?
Aye.
Jay Churchill?
Aye.
Dennis Rack?
Aye.
Kelly Farrell Du Bois?
Aye.
Well, let the record show that there are 7 votes in the affirmative. Motion carried unanimously.
Will this be open for our Christmas party then?
Next year.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say next year at the earliest, but it's supposed to be a type of glamping, so that will be interesting. Now, I would like to move to new business C, and again, Christine and Nolan, please.
Thank you, Mike. I do want to recognize Pat Goodell is here with us today from Saturn Power, which will own the Rack 1 Solar LLC project. It is the applicant for the IDA benefits. Pat previously provided to this board a very thorough, excellent presentation. So he's joining us today in the event there are questions, but knowing that you'd already seen the presentation, we did not ask him to make an additional presentation. This project is new construction of a 5 megawatt AC solar farm that would be located at 3570 Stone Quarry Road in Fredonia, New York, which is actually located in the town of Sheridan. The application that we received is for pilot and tax lease benefits, including real property tax abatement for a period of 25 years, sales tax abatement for a period of 18 months, mortgage recording tax abatement, and this would also be a deviation from our uniform tax exemption policy. The jobs that are being projected are 1 full-time equivalent permanent position and 31 construction positions. The project budget is approximately $7.8 million. And Pat, I just want to make sure I have the timeline correct when I state this, okay? Because I was updating information from a few months ago. I believe it's scheduled to commence in the 3rd quarter of this year and be commercially operational in the 3rd quarter of next year. Is that still current?
We're still on track for that, yeah. So instead of, I guess, maybe a month and a half ago or so, that we were still looking to start some construction before the first frost.
Okay, thank you, Pat. To date, the town of Sheridan has approved this project in May. Their special use permit was approved. This board approved a preliminary due diligence resolution and due diligence agreement. We held a public hearing on August 17th, which I'll get into in a few minutes. And today before you, you have a deviation hearing, a deviation resolution, a super resolution, and a final authorizing resolution. I believe first we'd like to have the deviation hearing. Millen, would you be able to facilitate that for us?
I'd be happy to. The proposed deviation is the pilot would be $3,800 per megawatt. That's sort of where an awful lot of these smaller solar projects have been coming in. We also understand that the applicant has negotiated host community agreement with the town of Sheridan of approximately $1,200 per megawatt.
Recording in progress.
Sorry, my phone is beeping at me. And the pilot would be for 25 years. So with the chairman's consent, I would like to ask if there's any members, representatives of any of the affected tax jurisdictions that would like to be heard on this topic.
I don't see any of the tax jurisdiction representatives in attendance, and I do want to let you know that I did not receive any written comments prior to the meeting.
Okay. That being said, I think that we're done with the hearing. If the chairman likes, ready to move on to the resolutions.
Yes, please. Thank you, Nolan.
Okay, there are, as Christine mentioned, 3 resolutions before you. The deviation, and I think just a second ago I described what the deviation would be. It is a deviation from your UTEP, but again, on all of these solar projects we deviate. This is right sort of down the middle of the line of what we've done for others. The next would be a secret resolution. The town of Sheridan declared itself to be lead agency, but at the time that they did that, there was no application pending with the IDA, so the IDA was not noticed as an involved agency, which means that we had to conduct our own independent secret review, including the comments received at the public hearing and the other information provided by the developer. The developer answered a lot of our questions and provided additional materials. This is a type 1 action because it does involve the potential disturbance of more than 10 acres, but we are confident in working with staff and the developer that the agency should concur with the town's negative declaration on secret. And last is the final and approving resolution, as Christine described, awarding pilot sales tax, mortgage recording tax, and authorizing the IDA staff and council to draft, negotiate, and close all the relevant documents.
And if I may add, excuse me, I'm sorry. Mornings are like this for me. Mark had asked me to just highlight the types of comments that were received in the public hearing. So you've all received the full detailed transcript in advance of this meeting, and I'll just briefly review the types of comments that were received. We had 1 person in attendance, and we received 1 written comment from the public also. Comments included, viewing that they would have a decrease in their property value, potential hazards, concerns about employment as a result of the project, concerns about whether the pilot is needed, concern about proximity to their property. One second, I don't want to repeat myself. Doesn't think that the landlord should receive tax breaks, although I think we need some clarification there that the landlord would not. Isn't creating many permanent county jobs, and a belief that the energy is not going into the, that it's going into the grid, but only supporting a handful of residents. And that's it.
Christine, I guess I would like to comment on one of those questions because it does seem to be a legal issue. That is with each of these solar projects, the solar array is a separate tax parcel. So what the IDA is contemplating giving financial assistance on for a pilot is the array. The underlying land would not be subject to any abatement whatsoever as a result of this. So I think there was some confusion at the public hearing that the landlord would be receiving benefits from this, the landlord being one of your board members. So I think we all want to make it very clear that that is not the case, that the financial assistance is going to the developer and not the underlying landowner.
Yeah, Millen, and I would like to add there, in the case of a piece of property that had an ag exemption, they actually lose that ag exemption, and the taxing jurisdictions would receive more money for that parcel than even before when it had the ag designation on it. So more money that way as well sometimes for the taxing jurisdictions.
But one of the questions that I had was in the Post Journal 2 days ago. There was a pretty good article about, or an article anyway, about concern of taking farmland and doing this, and I don't know if anybody saw it or not, but I just wondered if it applied here, if it was after the public forum that Christine just talked about, because it sounded like it was more current news. So there was some public comment that wasn't positive towards this, and I'm not sure if it was to this project or another project, but it was to solar farms, and they wanted to have assurance of cleanup effort when it became obsolete. That's how I read it anyway.
Thank you, Jay. That comment was not made at this public hearing. However, I did hear comments to that effect at the Comfort PD public hearing, which we'll discuss in a few minutes. Although, generally speaking, I don't know if Mark, Rich, Millen have a comment regarding that.
Well, certainly this project was being contemplated well before that. The Ag and Farmland Protection Board submitted that letter to the legislature, and so we are definitely looking at that, looking at ways that we can help the municipalities for sure to update their land use laws accordingly. And there was a discussion about prime soils, and I don't know off the top of my head if this project is occurring on prime soils or not. I probably should know that, but I don't. Again, we're it's sort of a local decision, and we are going to create, I think, and we're going to have more discussion about this with Pierre and others. Create a template that the local municipalities can use to help guide them in this process.
And Mark, this Millen, I believe the same thing applies for the issue of the decommissioning plan.
Yes.
That really is a town decision, and quite honestly, the towns are all over the map as to what they require. Do they require a bond or not? But so far, at least, I think we've taken the position that really is a zoning and land use issue. And while we're happy to help the municipalities who coordinate so that they have as much understanding as we do, those requirements have all been at a town local level.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Millen, because for sure we're going to really look around the state and see what other municipalities are doing to ensure that what we're suggesting or recommending to the municipalities will assure that in the future these projects get decommissioned appropriately. We're going to go down that path.
Jay, the article you referred to, those comments were made at the Legislature Planning and Economic Development Committee meeting last month that Christine Starks chairs. And we are following through on those comments with the planning department, as Mark referred to pursue the concerns that were raised and try and come to some assistance to the local municipalities that was being requested.
It sounds like everybody at this meeting is sensitive to the concerns. I just wanted to make sure that, and I'm not sure that it's our place to, we're here as a business help, not to feel bad for a farmer or whatever it might be. But I just read that in the Post Journal and said, this gave bad PR, and I just wanted to dip in the butt if it's possible. It sounds like everyone's sensitive to it, so that was my question. Thank you.
I just make a quick comment. I sat on the Farmland Protection Board for a number of years, so I'm sensitive to land use issues and those types of things. That where this project is being located is certainly not prime agricultural land. We struggled to find profitable crops to grow on it for a long time, and that's why this is appealing to us, because it will, get us income off of this property that, quite frankly, we've struggled to make money on for a number of years, and it'll diversify our income stream for our business, as well as provide renewable energy. So, again, I'm familiar with all the concerns, and rightfully so. But in this case, I don't believe that we're certainly not using prime farmland.
And if I could just tag on one thing from the developers, perhaps on Pi's perspective, I think it is important for Southern Power when they do develop projects that we do want to take into So the idea, Mark, that you touched on the idea of wanting to provide tools to local towns to be able to better be informed with projects going forward. That like we obviously all want to make sure that there is still, farmland for crops to grow, and there are important, necessities and requirements to keep in line with that. So I've enjoyed working with Christine and the idea here, and where I'm not telling who's out of school. Saturn is still interested in developing projects in Chicago County. So if there are things that we can bring to the table to assist with these resources, or bring the view of the developer, I'm more than happy to chime in when appropriate. I don't want to necessarily muddy the waters, but at the same time, if there is a lens with the developer, I'll put my hand up and volunteer and say Saturn's here to help bring that lens to the discussion.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you. Excellent discussion. Any further discussion?
Mike, I just wanted to ask Pat a question, and John too, when it's his turn. The governor recently announced the new transmission lines upstate to downstate. What do you see is that, will that have any effect on Western New York, in particular Chautauqua County, as far as more solar or wind development?
I think overall the state is not being shy about the idea that they have aggressive targets, and so I think of Western New York is in a position whereby that the land is in great surplus, as whereas the city itself, New York City, has a lack of land but a very ferocious appetite for energy. So it's the idea of the folks that down in New York City want to be able to have solar, or want to be able to have clean energy. What does that look like? I think from Western New York, and maybe even specifically Chicago County, there could be more projects coming down the pipeline. From a Saturn Power perspective, like I said, I've really enjoyed working with the folks at Chautauqua County. I've really enjoyed working with both the municipality of Pomfret as well as the town of Sheridan. And anytime I get on calls with my executive team, I say that we want to make a push in Chicago County. Everyone's being very friendly to deal with and very easy to deal with. So,
Thank you, Pat.
That's an excellent point. That the previous governor and the current governor have set some extremely aggressive targets for clean energy. And as you can see by my backdrop, we have a solar array on the campus of SUNY Fredonia, and we are well below the targets as a state and as a county and as a Western New York that have been set for clean energy. So we desperately need additional projects and continued projects to even have an opportunity to come close to meeting these goals as set forth by the governors. Stephen, if you could please move new business C2.
Resolution 10-1-21-03, RAC 1 Solar LLC mediation resolution.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Okay, I think Jay was, I have a motion by Stephen, seconded by Jay. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote, please. Mike Metzger votes aye. Gary Henry? Aye. Hans Howard?
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe?
Aye.
Jay Churchill?
Aye.
Dennis Rack?
Nay.
Kelly Farrell Du Bois?
Aye.
Let the record show that there are 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 abstention, motion carried. If I could ask Hans, if you could please move new business C3.
Resolution 10-01-21-04, RAC 1 Solar LLC, seeker resolution.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Hans, seconded by Stephen. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote, please. Mike Metzger votes aye. Gary Henry?
Aye.
Hans Sauer?
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe?
Aye.
Jay Churchill?
Aye.
Dennis Rack?
Abstain.
Kelly Farrell Du Bois?
Aye.
Let the record show 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 abstention, motion carried. Jay, if you could please move new business C4.
Resolution 10-01-21-05, RAC 1 Solar, final resolution.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded, motion made by Jay, seconded by Kelly. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote, please. Mike Metzger votes aye. Gary Henry?
Aye.
Hans Sauer?
Aye. Sorry.
No. Stephen Thorpe?
Aye.
Jay Churchill?
Aye.
Dennis Rack?
Abstain.
Kelly Farrell Du Bois?
Aye.
Let the record show 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 abstention, motion carried. Thank you, Pat, and also Christine and Dylan and everyone for the hard work and dedication to this valuable project. Thank you very much. Okay, I would now like to move to new business D. Christine and Millen, please.
Thank you, Mike. This project, Pomfret PV, actually began through our process via a transaction committee. You've all received those minutes, I think a couple of months ago, and then again recently. Therefore, the developer has not had an opportunity to present the project to the board yet. So we'd like to invite John Rapp, who is the CEO and sole member of RIC Development LLC, which owns Pomfret PV LLC, and also Unimka Nagata, the Senior Project Development Manager of RIC Development LLC, to provide an overview of this project for the board. John and Unimka.
Thanks, Christine. I invited him to the meeting because he's been the project manager and is a bit closer to the details of the site. So I'll pass it over to him to just kind of introduce the project to folks.
Oh, Unimka, I can't hear you. Are you on mute? Oh, I'm not sure. We're not getting audio, Unimka. I'm sorry. It looks like you're off with me. Yeah, I've talked to you. John, I have a full summary here if you'd like me to review it.
Yeah, that'd be fine. You know, I can chime in. I mean, I'm familiar with the project.
We understand in these days, technological issues, so no trouble at all. I'm sorry, Anupka, that we cannot hear you.
Those millennials.
But thank you. Okay, so Pomfret PV is a proposed 3 megawatt AC solar farm on 24.5 acres that would be purchased from Pomfret Estates, which is an unrelated entity, that would be located at 4545 Van Buren Road in Fredonia, New York, in the town of Pomfret. This project does border the village of Fredonia neighborhood also, which came up in the public hearing. The application is pilot tax lease application requesting real property tax abatement for 25 years, sales tax abatement for a period of 1 year, mortgage recording tax abatement, and this would also be a deviation from our universal tax exemption policy, as are all of these commercial solar projects. The capital budget is projected at about $3.1 million. Projected jobs would include 30 construction jobs and about 0.3 FTE permanent job after completion. I hope I have the timeline correct. Again, I was making updates. I have the project would, nope, I'm sorry. I have to go back to the application. I know that this is the prior timeline. I can't remember, John, were you commencing right after the first of the year and operational by the end of next year?
Yeah, that's correct, Christina. We're going to purchase equipment over the winter and then operational by August is the plan by next year.
Thank you. I apologize. I forgot to update that one note here. So again, this project came before the transaction committee, and during the transaction committee was authorized to move forward with next steps in our due diligence process. Before you today, we have scheduled a deviation hearing, and we are presenting deviation resolution and seeker resolution and a final authorizing resolution. Additionally, the town of Pomfret has issued an approval for this project, subject to a CCIDA seeker negative declaration. And they have asked us to be the lead agency for the seeker review. We held a public hearing on September 16th, and I just need to get to that page. And Mark has asked me to provide a summary of that public hearing, which was provided to the board in advance of this meeting. We had 4 members of the public in attendance. They were Village of Fredonia residents with properties either bordering the project site or in close proximity to the project site. We received I categorize these into 4 categories. We received quite a few comments regarding the land, some comments regarding IDA incentives and process, a comment about employment, and then some miscellaneous comments. So to provide further detail, the adjacent homeowner is concerned about the proximity to his home and anticipated glare to his second story. The use of agricultural land, clearing land, drainage issues and wildlife, climate change, and rainfall contributing to drainage issues, that there would be other open sites elsewhere. And then another participant commented on anti-glare panels potentially contaminating groundwater. The comments with regard to the IDA incentives and process were related to IDA mission and whether this project contributes to the local economy, that they were against state incentives and potential CCIDA incentives, asking whether the CCIDA seeker review was already complete prior to the public hearing and could they provide comments. And of course they could, and we collected comments there and gave them an opportunity to provide additional comments for several weeks following that meeting. Asked if we had already made a decision, and we had not, and I explained that process. Concern about employment, whether local companies would be used to install the project, concerns expressed about the project size being reduced from about 55 acres to 24.5 acres. Concerns and issues that they weren't notified about the town for the project and the town's process. Concerns regarding the lease, bond decommissioning, future changes in ownership, a belief that the energy is going to go to Connecticut grid, not New York State grid, and a view that these projects are not energy efficient. So that's a brief summary of the comments received. Again, you have full details that was provided to you in advance of the meeting. And I think that concludes my comments. John, do you have anything else you'd like to add, or if the NIMCA does have sound, we'd be happy to hear from him before we proceed?
The only other thing, this good summary of the project. The only other thing, it's not part of the IDA application, but as a commitment to the town, we have another 22 acres that we're dedicating for conservation in the Village of Fredonia. That was, in order to address some of the concerns of people that live bordering the project.
And John, and I think that property is adjacent to the project site, correct?
Right.
Thank you. Mike, I think unless there are any I'm sorry, let me ask first, are there any questions of the board regarding the project? Rich, we can't hear you. Rich?
Yeah, I was just curious, John, the same question that I asked Pat about. What's your take on the governor's announcement about the transmission lines coming downstate? What effect do you see that having on Western New York solar, wind, or whatever?
Yeah, Rich, I mean, I agree with what Pat said, that's done for the explicit purpose of having more generation of wind and solar in Western New York to be routed to the metro area. I think it's important to make the distinction, though, between projects like this one and Saturn's project and the utility scale projects that would facilitate. All that are in the province of the towns and villages as far as permitting are in the distribution loop using existing infrastructure, and they won't really be affected by that. Those projects you'll see under Article 94C, will be the kind of the 100 megawatt scale, and it will facilitate that. RIC is currently in that. It'll be different types of projects that'll be in process, but the goal is to get to 70% by 2030. Facilitating transmission level construction is important to reach that goal.
Thank you, John. That was very helpful.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add that as a result of the public hearing and a number of the comments that Christine mentioned, and we expanded our secret analysis and worked with the developer to get additional answers and documentation to each of those issues that were raised, and that is all reflected in the proposed secret resolution. So while there were a number of questions, an awful lot of them are quite honestly similar to other concerns we've heard before, we did take them all seriously and investigate them, and the developer was very helpful in helping us to address them.
Thank you for that clarification. Millen, I impose upon you to conduct the deviation hearing?
I'd be happy to. The proposed deviation is a 3.0 megawatt project. The proposed deviation from the uniform tax exemption policy would be to have a pilot equal to $3,600 per megawatt. We understand that the developer has made arrangements with the town for host community agreement for an additional $1,400 a megawatt. Therefore, bringing this project right in very close to others that we have done and approved before, this would be a 25-year abatement, which again deviates from your standard. So at this time, I guess I'd like any members or other representatives of any of the tax jurisdictions who would like to be heard on this project.
Mr. Metzger, I don't know if I'm able to speak or not, but may I make a
Yes,
comment?
please.
I just wanted to share that after the public hearing at the town of Pomfret, I did speak with the town supervisor, and he was very appreciative to the accommodations that the developer and the companies made to address the concerns of the residents. I just wanted to share that positive note.
No, thank you very much.
Perfect timing.
Yes.
Okay.
And Melon, I will mention I did not receive any verbal or written comments from members of the taxing jurisdictions, and I don't see any in attendance with us today.
Okay. That being said, I would call the deviation hearing to a close. And then, Mr. Chairman, we have, as Christine mentioned, 3 resolutions. They're very similar to the 3 that we just did for RAC 1. They are a deviation resolution. And the deviation that I just described, notice of which went out to all the affected tax jurisdictions. The secret resolution, again, in this instance, the town asked the agency to act as lead agency, which we have done so, and this is a type 1 action. We have analyzed with staff, the developer, the potential economic impacts, and determined that it's reasonable for the board to conclude that there's no negative adverse environmental impact. And then third is the final and approving resolution authorizing the staff and council to draft, negotiate, finalize, and execute documents to implement the financial assistance requested.
Thank you, Millen and Christine. Any questions of Christine, Millen, or John? Hearing and seeing none. Dennis, if you could please move new business D3.
Certainly. Resolution 10-01-21-06, Conference PV LLC deviation resolution.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Second. Motion made by Dennis, seconded by Stephen. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please. Mike Metzger votes aye. Gary Henry?
Aye.
Hans Howard?
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe?
Aye.
Jay Churchill?
Aye.
Dennis Rack?
Aye.
Kelly Farrell Du Bois?
Aye.
Let the record show there are 7 votes in the affirmative. Motion carried unanimously. Stephen, if you could please move new business D4.
Resolution 10-011-21-07, Pomfret PV seeker resolution.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made by Stephen, seconded by Dennis. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please. Mike Metzger votes aye. Gary Henry?
Aye.
Hans Howard?
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe?
Aye.
Jay Churchill?
Aye.
Dennis Rack?
Aye.
Kelly Farrell Du Bois?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
7 votes in the affirmative. Motion carried unanimously. Gary, if you could please move new business D5.
Resolution 10-01-21-08, Pomfret PV final resolution.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made by Gary, seconded by Dennis. Any further discussion? Roll call, please. Mike Metzger votes aye. Gary Henry?
Aye.
Hans Howard?
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe?
Aye.
Jay Churchill?
Aye.
Dennis Rack?
Aye.
Kelly Farrell Du Bois?
Aye.
Let the record show 7 votes in the affirmative. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Christine, Millen, and everyone for the hard work on this very valuable project. And good luck to the developers. And thank you for choosing Chautauqua County.
Thank you, Mike. John and Aneka, you're welcome to continue on with us, or if you'd like to sign up, we understand we still have quite a bit to review today on this agenda.
Okay, thank you. I think I'll depart. Thank you, Christine.
Well,
I think it works now.
totally understandable. Have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you for attending. I'd now like to move to the always thrilling Executive Director and CEO update.
Did I sense some sarcasm there?
No, none whatsoever.
Yay. Yeah, I'll be real quick. I just
Put
wanted
him on the
to.
clock. Put him on the clock.
I promise I'll be quick. 2 things real quick. One is that, we've been talking internally, and I had a discussion with Mike a few weeks ago about hiring a marketing person. We've got so much to do with, I really think our website needs to be updated. We have a lot of social media that we do some, and I think we could do more, and the press releases and branding, and I think we all agree internally here that we should hire a marketing person that's their forte, and I don't think it's necessarily that we would carry the full load. At the same time, we're looking at this, the Partnership for Economic Growth is also looking at this so we could split the cost of hiring a marketing person. And I know that Rich is going to talk about our finances later, that we're in a good financial position to do so. So I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention that we're going to move to do that, and hopefully everyone's on board with that. I think it just makes a lot of sense. We're all trying to do it. It's certainly not not my forte or anybody else on our team's forte. And I think if we get a professional person, that makes a lot of sense to do that. The second thing I wanted to just briefly mention is that, the county received $24.6 million of American Rescue Plan funding. And we really worked together with the legislature and the department heads and the community really to look at, the best way to allocate this funding. And it's really, it's sort of in 4 or 5 pots of funding. One is public health, one is infrastructure, one is economic and workforce development, clean water, public safety, and then miscellaneous. And I just wanted to briefly mention some of the economic development related projects. There's 43 projects altogether, and there's about 10 what I would call economic development related projects. And those include broadband to underserved or unserved communities, which is we're allocating $2.5 million in our plan. Water and sewer infrastructure for shovel-ready sites, $1.4 million. Site acquisition for shovel-ready sites, $1.4 million. Partnership for economic growth for a multitude of economic development initiatives, $500,000. Workforce development initiative with WIB, JCC, the Visitors Bureau, and other workforce partners, $352,000. Environmental permit fee waiver program, $240,000. Cornell Cooperative Extension Agricultural Improvement Program, $232,000 and some change. Marketing assistance to businesses and not-for-profits. That would be a IDA and a chamber initiative, $400,000. And then phase 2 of the South and Center Chautauqua Lake Sewer District, West Side Extension from Stowe to Prendergast Creek, a little over $7 million. So, all of these projects are really going to, in the long term, benefit this community. Certainly have an economic impact, and these are projects that have been vetted and thought through, and we're really grateful to the legislature and the county executive for his leadership on this. So I think that's all really good news for our community. So I wanted to bring that up. And then lastly, and I try to do this every week, you can see the amount of work that goes into all of these projects, from the business development managers to our CFO, Rich, and all the work that Rose does to get this information out. I'm just really, really grateful to our staff for all the work they do. So I just wanted to conclude with that. And I don't know if anybody has any questions, but that's all I have.
I would just make a comment, Mark, that, my experience has been that if you really want to market something or do it, everybody tries to do it with the stamp you've got, but you really need a dedicated person who takes ownership of it, and that's their main focus in order to accomplish it. Otherwise, it's a piecemeal of a number of people, and it's very difficult to do it without a dedicated person.
I agree, Dennis, and that's exactly what we've been doing. And I think that we need somebody that's what they do. They get their head wrapped around that, but thinking high level strategy and all the pieces that go into that. And so I agree with you 100%.
That's not anything, Mark, that we need to approve, right? I mean, it's in your budget, or you figured out how to put it in your budget. I agree. Wonderful idea. Let's get the word out on all the great work we're doing. So 100% supportive. That's great.
Well, thank you. Any other questions of Mark? Now I'd like to move to the treasurer's report. I want to welcome Mr. Dixon back. He looks great. He's a shadow of his previous self. And when you stood up and turned sideways, I didn't even see it, Rich. But he's recuperating very well from an operation, and we really appreciate you getting back in the saddle probably sooner than you should, but very much appreciated.
Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. The doctor said you could probably go back to work on such and such a day. They said, yeah, I'll bring the slip into myself and we'll go from there. So I might have came back a little early, but everything went extremely well. I'm did some golf balls, so that's always good. So thank you, Mike. I know we've been here a long time, so we'll get right to the financials. Rosie, if you want to throw those up.
Can you see that?
I can. Yeah.
So as Mark was saying, we are in really good shape here. We've added some columns here, and I'm going to get to those in a little bit because I want the board to understand this, and Nate will fill in, and Mark will fill in when I don't exactly get the funds right and what for. But if we look under the independents, we're in a very strong cash position. Our accounts receivables are also very strong, mainly in that accounts receivable of $3.1 million. Fees for the large-scale wind and Phoenix project and some other large projects that are stretched out, in some cases up to 7 years. So I just point that out on the balance sheet. If we go down to the CARES Act, you can see that we've got notes receivable outstanding of $6.1 million already. We did over $10 million of those funds. Last month, a lot more of those have closed. We'll get into that detail when we get into executive session. We are writing off 30% as a bad debt reserve on those CARES Act loans. Hopefully it won't come to that, but the board thought that was prudent, and we discussed that with the auditors last year. We have the critic administers some grants, processes some OCR loans that we take some money in there. And then we've added some more columns here. The Partnership for Economic Growth that Mark talked about. The Ralph Wilson Foundation and Nate and Mark were able to receive a $100 million grant that the board approved a while back. The Gebby Foundation gave us some money for the Chattacoin River project, and then we have a Chattacoin Bay project. So at this time, I'm going to have Nate start and Mark can interject just to give you a little more background on those 4 funds at the end so you know what's going on here. Nate?
Thanks, Rich. And I'm happy to dig into all 4 of those funds and answer specific questions, but I'm going to take a very quick step back just to remind the board, as you may recall, the first Camoin Economic Development Strategy, the Organizational Plan for Economic Development, which really recommended the creation of the partnership in the public-private model and specific recommendations on how to implement that. Called for raising $250,000 in startup resources over 3 years. So we're just approaching year 3. We launched the partnership in November 2019. So next month will be 2 years old. And to date, and happy to report, as Mark alluded to earlier, as of last week, we've received funding commitments over $2 million, and that's both operating support as well as funding to implement our priority projects. So again, we've received funding from the Northern Chautauqua Community Foundation, the Gebby Foundation, the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation, and other smaller contributions from partners on a specific project basis. Also last week, the legislature's adoption of the ARPA plan included $500,000 for the partnership. And on the expense side, we've been able to hire a full-time economic development specialist
a part-time economic development specialist. We'll be committing 50% of the salary and benefits for the marketing position, as Mark mentioned earlier, professional services, and then by far and large, the majority of the funding for specific project initiatives. So real quickly, the couple funds here. The main partnership fund includes our funding from the Community Foundation and other unrestricted dollars. The Ralph Wilson grant, we've received $350,000 to date. Don't have any expenses on that yet. The Gebby Foundation will probably be renaming this fund just to Chattacoin River Activation Initiative, because in addition to the Gebby Foundation's contribution, we've also received approximately $50,000 from other stakeholders and partners in that initiative. And then just a real quick reminder, the Chadwick Bay, we provide 9 municipalities in the North County with some enhanced technical assistance relating to economic development, regionalism, government efficiency, and we get a small revenue from those municipalities to provide that service. So that's a very quick overview. I could go on, but in the interest of time, I'll just answer any other questions.
I might add just real quick that one of the main goals of this group was to queue up projects for submission for state funding, and our goal was year one to submit between 5 and 10, and we actually submitted 7, and then we assisted other entities, other communities in submitting several others. So we're right in line where we want to be. And when we met with the Ralph Wilson Foundation, they asked us what are some of the biggest challenges, and we said the matching money, for these state grants. And so a fair amount, or a majority of that Ralph Wilson Foundation funding is for that matching requirement. So that really helps out the municipalities and others that are submitting these grants. So yeah, we're really excited about where we're at and where we're going. And we have over 110 economic development partners that's involved in that public-private partnership with 5 different working groups that are meeting quarterly. So kudos to Nate and the team, and we'll just keep it moving.
Hey, Rosie, you want to go down to the next page, please? So here is our statement of revenue and expense through August 31st. IDA is doing extremely well. We've had some application and administrative fees that we thought would come in later. We've come in. The big number there, we recognized the last $300,000 on administrative fees for the Ball Hill Wind Project, which is moving along quite nicely. I don't know if any of the board members have taken a long drive up to the top of Ball Hill, but you'll see a lot of activity going on too. And again, we show that some activity in the DEG, the Gebby, and the Chattacoin Bay. So, Rosie, if you go to the next page. So here is our budget, actual versus the variance. On October 26th, we'll be reviewing the budget for 2022. I need to get to the Chautauqua County Legislature and the draft, the unapproved budget of the IDA by the 6th. I'm going to Myrtle Beach next week. I'll finish that up this weekend and get that to the legislature. I don't, just as we report to them, I'm sure for comments, they'll get a hold of us, Mike, Mark, and talk about it. So we will be sending that to them this year. We're reflecting to do that. But if we look here, we're in pretty good shape. I think the application fees are already over our budgeted amount for last year. Our grant income, the majority of that comes from the CARES Act. I believe we're going to make that up. Close to very large amounts here in the month of October and November to recognize that revenue. expense side, pretty much under. It's funny, the office expense is a little over, but so we continue to move through all utilities. We have seen a spike in the cost of our utilities, our gas and electric. Cost a little more than what we had budgeted. Not that we're using more, but the cost is more. So, I think we're in great shape. Mike, Mark, and the board, I don't have anything else to say unless anyone has any questions about any specific accounts or amounts.
I think great shape is an understatement. So excellent results.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll ask for a motion on the treasurer's report as submitted.
Move to approve the treasurer's report.
Thank you, Dennis. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made by Dennis, seconded by Hans. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carried unanimously. Now I would like to entertain a motion to move into executive session for the specific purpose of discussion of the possible discussion of personnel matters or businesses or acquisitions. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Thank you, Dennis, seconded by Hans. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Rosie, please tell us when we are in executive session.
Recording stopped.
Thank you, Rosie.